All right, so on this podcast here, I want to introduce you a very special guest, very good friend of mine, somebody we go way back, and I'm talking
Just
like
a little bit.
to the very beginning. This is Mr. Chris Culbertson, so welcome. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being on the show.
Appreciate you having me here.
You're welcome, man. Yeah, when I say way back, man, I was thinking about it as like we're rolling up in like fancy cars and stuff here this morning. And like when we met, I was literally out of bankruptcy. And you were the
I think I
bankruptcy
met you
specialist.
still in the filing
I
process.
was in it. Yeah, I was in it. And we got to talking, and it was like a stepbrothers moment. Like we just became best friends.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, I mean, like, we've just, we've been together ever since with that. And I know that you have risen through the ranks in the dealer process as well. And you've made some adjustments, gone to different dealerships as kind of, in the time period happens, But I mean, man, like during the car buying process, what you have never really forgotten in that whole thing is like everybody, like you put yourself into the position of like where that person is at that time, because we both been there, like we both been at the lowest points of our life. We met, I won't say like trauma buddies, but like that's kind of in a sense like maybe what it was at the time. But
Yeah, we're both coming out of bad situations and hoping for the best. And,
yeah,
I think that's part of maybe what sparked the friendship between us is that we both were at a similar place and we strive to make more and do better and become more and kind of find our way.
yeah,
And it's people like that you can really connect with because you're both in the same area and you're like, okay, he's been there before, I've been there before, we kind of lost it, how do we get it back? Let's get back on track. And it's like a lot of your other guests have talked about, just having that similar mindset, that focus, that determination, and that drive. When you find somebody that you can match that energy with and you can kind of piggyback ideas like, okay, I see him doing this, how can I use that towards my profession? How can that further drive me? And then we just kind of keep in contact and we swap stories and even all the way here. Let's fast forward from all those years ago, 2011 or 12, maybe it was.
it's
I think
been
it was
a
12.
minute. Yeah, something.
But just
I like
just
lost
more
everything.
recently, a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
I took over my dad's little side business, and
That's
I
right.
got my first check, and it was a little guy. It was like $220. I sent it straight to you, and I was like, look, took my first step. I got my first mile marker, got my first paycheck, and that was just a very proud moment for me. And I knew that's something that you could connect with and you could relate to and you could appreciate as well.
I still keep where I started as the office that I
remember
started
that photo.
in the basement, in my basement. And I was, man, I mean, I talk about this all the time. I had this noisy ass sump pump and I couldn't like afford to fix the sump pump. And I would have that sucker barricaded in with like boxes and mattresses and everything else. And this sucker was still so loud. And I had to have my phone timed because people would hear it in the back and it sounded like a fire alarm or some kind of like tornado drill or something that was getting ready to happen. And I would have to have that time. But I mean, like I go back and I think about a lot of these different things of like where I've come from and the risks that we're taking and, and it's what has really molded us to being the people that we are today. And, that's, again, I think that's what also makes us so good at our jobs. It's because we can put ourselves in the place of what that person's going through and not cast any kind of a judgment toward that person. Because there's a lot of people that do. It's like, oh, you're going to a buy here, pay here lot. Well, at least you're getting out there
Right,
and
you're
you're
still doing the
trying
best
to
that
buy
you can with the
get a car.
situation you're in.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what was the Buckley that they used to say, the dogs, and then they got like a sister, whatever, and like if you didn't pay your payments, like Buckley come after that ass. Like, they like shut your car down and friggin', they had the low jack on the thing and
Yeah,
stuff.
the
Like,
little, were they retrievers or?
I mean, but somebody came up with an idea to help people that had a need. And that's what business is really all about,
100%.
is trying to be able to fill a need It's like I got into the rental car business. There's a shortage of cars. And not only that, the process with this, like you get the exact kind of car that you set out for. It's not like you go in and you're thinking you're getting a Cadillac and you end up walking out of there with a Camry.
Right.
Nothing. Right. Yeah. So, but you end up, you get the exact kind of vehicle that you went online to book, the color, the look, everything, and they have a process that vets that driver through the entire time. And then I kind of take it a little bit further than that. Like I send them a message and I'm like, hey, do you want us to fill the car with some kind of beverages or I say beverages, with that. Yeah. Do you want me to fill the car with some kind of beverages? Do you need car seats? Do you need a cooler? Do you need, like, maybe it's like you didn't have time to be able to get the kids dinner or something like that, right? And we'll stop and we'll get them some dinner and have it waiting for them in the car. And we even started offering a sober driver service, right? Because, you get people that'll rent that, they'll have like a night out with as a couple or something, they'll go out and, they don't want to be drinking and driving.
Especially when it's not their vehicle.
You'd be surprised. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, we've just tried to be able to create solutions for people's problems. And that is what has ultimately been a success for you and I both.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100%. That's why business exists. You provide a service. Somebody has a need for the service. Now, where it's gotten tarnished is that too many people care more about their business than the service. So, again, like you said a little bit ago, just connecting with your customer, providing something unique, giving yourself an advantage over your competition. Here in the world of auto sales, I do sales, I do finance. In the business, they call it cradle to grave because I can take somebody from hello to, sign here, this is your contract, and everything in between, and explaining all those different services and products that anybody could offer at any dealership. The difference that I've tried to take with each individual customer is that I work primarily with a subprime niche. It's bankruptcy, it's credit rebuild, fixed income, repos, all these different avenues of people that still need help, but they're less likely to get it at other dealerships because either people don't care about that type of customer, they don't treat them the same as an 800 credit score, or they know it's going to take a lot of effort and work to really get their situation handled. And they're like, yeah, but I've got 2 other buyers over here. Let me take care of them first and I'll come back. If you treat those people the same way as you treat your 800, your cash buyers, your multimillionaire customers that come in and just get whatever they want at the drop of a hat, if you give them that same treatment, that's going to separate you service-wise, like you're doing with the rental service, from the competition. They'll always remember that. I've got people that I haven't talked to in 10 years. They'll call me, they'll Google my name, they'll find me, find out where I'm at, and they keep my cell phone number. They lock me in because I provided something unique. I gave them something to remember. I connected with them. I related to them because I started with bad credit. They're in a bad credit situation. I can show you how to rebuild. I can show you how to maintain it. I can show you how to get, the vehicles that you ultimately want to drive, not just a Hyundai Elantra, which is fine for a lot of people. It's just basic transportation. But other people, they want to come in and they want to start there. Then they want to go to, SUV, and then they want the pickup truck, the high dollar pickup truck. And it's like, I can get you there. It's going to take a little effort. It's going to take a little time. Yeah. I've told people in the past, having bad credit and wishing it was great is kind of like being really drunk and wishing you were sober. Like, I'll never do this again, right? So it just takes time. You have to put the correct steps in motion, and you have to get there. You have to earn that. And just like being drunk, wish you were sober. There's no magic cup of coffee that's going to fix your credit. It's time. It's effort. It's making better decisions, right? So if you decide to stop drinking so you can get sober, you'll get sober. If you don't, if you keep on drinking, well, if old habits die hard, you're going to stay in the same position. You're never going to improve. Yeah. But if you're willing to help yourself, I'm willing to back you. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to show you and give you the sauce to get that better credit so you can ultimately get, and it's not just cars, that gets people into houses, that gets people credit cards, for emergency situations. That gets them the ability to rent a luxury vehicle if they wanted one. But if you don't have that credibility and you don't have the effort behind it, nobody's going to help you unless you help yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've always tried to have a nice vehicle, and at some points in time, you know, I kind of went no-co style and had like a nicer car than I did house, you know. But people from St. Louis will understand that.
Oh yeah,
Nobody else.
St. Louis
Yeah,
reference.
but as far as, you know, it was a badge of honor. It was like it gave you something to work for. You know, like being in a commission position, nobody rewards you. You have to reward yourself. So you have to set goals and reach for the stars and try to be able to, you know, continue to keep improving. And I would say, you know, like with like even through all the difficult things, I mean, now like I got a lot of really nice cars, right? You know, but you know, there's never really a time that I can go back and remember, even as, you know, being as young as I am. I remember like my parents saying to me, "You're crazy. Like, you're going to spend your whole entire summer working for this car to pay for the insurance and to pay for the car payment."
Yeah.
It was like a Ford Probe at the time. Remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. And I mean, like, my first car, okay, that one was like, you needed like a boating license to drive the thing. And it like came with an oar, you know, like it was like 86 Cutlass Supreme Brum. But I rocked it and I drove it, you know, like.
You were proud of that car.
I paid $500 for the car. You know, I worked all summer to be able to have the car. It had like 17,000 miles. It was like a freaking ridiculously, I'm going back, you know, 16 years old, something like that. But it was like at the time, pretty close to like a 20-year-old car or something. And it had like 17,000 miles or something on it. It was like crazy low. Like the woman that I bought it from, she kind of was like a grandmother to me. I worked at a nursing home at the time. And like I said, I went all summer, and she had seen me coming in on my bike, and I'm not talking. I'm talking like pedals, right? You know,
Bicycle.
like this is the time like where I wouldn't break the bike, you know, like so. But yeah, as far as she had seen that, and she was just like, "Hey, I've got this car. I'm not really supposed to be driving anymore because, you know," she would say, "I'm too old to drive, and would you be interested in buying it?" And you know, I said, "Yeah." You know, and like I said, I worked all summer for that money to be able to pay for that car, and it was an awesome thing. Like you said, you were like a badge of honor with that. So it doesn't matter. Like even you were talking about the small check and everything else, right? It's everybody's
It's a mile marker.
everybody has a different level. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it didn't take much. I mean, here, almost anybody can spend $200 carelessly, but it's kind of like you were getting with the story of the car. It's like it's not just the car; it's the path that you took to get to the car. It's how proud you are of yourself for getting to that point. It's the feeling behind it. It's not what it is.
I used to get so angry, when I would be told no by creditors, because they'd be like, "You don't have any credit." Like, I'm like, "So what? I don't have a job. Like, I can pay for it, you know." And they're telling me no, you know. But I remember, you know, like, you know, my parents weren't in a position to be able to co-sign or do anything to help me out or anything. And, you know, like, I think of my kids today that, you know, I'm getting them new cars and, you know, like, I'm taking care of all those different things because I want my kids to be kids. But, you know, going back, it was a different process back then. You know, my parents could not afford to do that.
Yeah.
They could not afford to make it happen. So I made it happen because I was in an area that it was like, I question sometimes if like we really were supposed to be there. Cause like you know, I'd seen all my friends and they're like, they got nice new cars and everything. And we lived in a wealthy area. And you know, it was like, I definitely was a stand up and I made it cool, you know, and that was, again, you know, it's like everybody has that different mile marker. Everybody has that different story. So, you know, it's not one isn't better than the other or something. You know, it's like I always tell my son, when a person shows you their card, because my kid's crazy about cards, I always say, make a big deal of it.
Absolutely.
No matter what it is. I don't care what it is. If it's a piece of junk, tell them, man, that's really awesome.
That piece of junk and they're a friend of yours.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just want to encourage somebody to feel good about what they've got. Because I mean, you're in a much better position now than you were when I met you, but you haven't lost that original value. You're teaching your kids the importance of earning it. Nothing's just handed to you, and I'm doing the same with my son. He's 16 and he starts talking about, oh, I want Camaro, he wants some, little sports car. And I'm like, I'm going to get you an 85 hoopty that I don't care if you wreck in a ditch or something. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it's always been the value of $1. So even, he wanted a mini fridge for his room, and I'm like, sure, you're 16, it's fine, I trust you with it. So went to Walmart, he grabbed a mini fridge, and he threw it in the cart, and I was like, sure, that's the one, we'll bring it home. We get it home, and he's anxious, he's pulling it out of the car, he's getting ready to plug it in and set it up, and I'm like, yeah, before you do that, why don't you rip out those bushes there?
Oh, I bet that went
he's
over
like,
well.
come on, Dad, I just want to set this thing up, get it cold, so by the time I'm done, I said, no, I know what you're doing. Just pull the bushes out, and then you can play with your new mini fridge. So it just little incremental lessons like that, just all throughout his upbringing. And it's like, I always tell people that haven't seen him growing up from who he used to be to who he is. I can't say I raised the world's nicest kid, but he's a good kid.
We're all imperfect.
I've heard about him getting in fights at school, and I'm like, come on, dude, you can't do that. At my cousin's wedding, my 92-year-old grandma stood up and she lost her footing, right? And we were all talking, and we didn't even know she was trying to move from the table. So out of the corner of his eye, he sees her stand up. He jumped right over to her, grabbed her under her arm, and he's like, come on, Glow Glow, where are we going? Where you want to go? I got you. And it's like, that was kind of a proud moment, because I didn't raise a nice kid necessarily, but he's a damn good kid.
I always find it interesting. So, like, people will say to me and my wife all the time, they'll be like, man, you guys have the most polite and just wonderful children. And I'm like, that's not the one that I dropped off at your house, but okay, and I love my kids, okay? But, like, my kids, I mean, the old saying, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Mm-hmm. I definitely, like, the apples they did not only just fall too far from the tree, they are literally, like, being thrown back at me, okay? And, like, same thing with, like, my kids getting in arguments and fights at school. My youngest, Chase, this kid, like, he's the sweetest kid ever, and, like, people just eat him up. They love him. He's a cute kid, right? But you mess with Chase, man, he's, like, going to mess you up.
You get the horns.
There's a kid that kept messing with him in line, and we get a call from the principal, and they're like, yeah, Chase, like, slammed a kid's face into the door. And I was like, well, why did he do that?
Like, as a parent, there had to have been a reason. He didn't just...
Well, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's a sweet kid, but they're just like, I mean, he's got his, as I always say, his mother's temper with, his daddy's business, right? Business head. So, he's got his mom's East Side hook, right? Mm-hmm. So, but he kept being bothered, and the kid, was in line, kept messing with him, and he was like, stop, and, and he handled business. I took him out to ice cream afterwards. And I know some parents would be like, man, you shouldn't teach him to be, like, he's defending himself.
Well, sure.
I'm not trying to raise a little Sally. I'm trying to raise a little, Chase, So, again, kids, like, defending themselves, that's another thing, But, man, I'll tell you, like, my kids have taught me so much stuff, like, just in life in general. Like, my daughter, it's like my daughter is, so a little backstory with it. My daughter is, she's not biologically my daughter. As I always say, she came, as a plus one with Angie, right?
You've raised your daughter in the same capacity that
two.
I've raised Jacob, because I met him when he was 4. He's not biologically mine either.
Doesn't mean just because you weren't the one that created him doesn't mean the one that you are. It doesn't mean that you're not the parent. Doesn't mean that just because they're not biologically your children does not mean that you're, again, like, you're not the father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, like, in regards to that, so I adopt her, as I joke with her, and she gets mad at me. I put her on payroll, as I joked, and that is really no lie when I say that. But she is a great kid, and she has the National Honor Society that she got inducted into, and me and my wife were sitting there, and I'm like bumping her. I was just like, you better cherish these moments, because they ain't going to be happening after this. I promise you that. I was like, the next two, I had involvement in making those. So I was like, just take it all in. Yeah, because I was like, they ain't freaking going to be in this thing, right? I was like, I've never been to something like this before. I didn't even know this crap existed. But they, and the other thing was, a lot of times they'll call, Maddie Ludwig is what her name is, right? But they will hyphenate her last name sometimes to being Walters Ludwig. And they did in the Honor Society thing. And like, we've asked for the school to try and be careful about that. But anyway, it's a confidence thing. It really is. Sure. And a purpose and a feeling of belonging, So she was listed twice in there. She was listed one time as Maddie Ludwig Walters, and then she was listed another time as Maddie Walters. And which, again, that was the biological name that she had. I was trying to make light of the situation, and I'm like, completely inappropriate. I'm sending her, like, she's like, what do I do? She's like texting both of us, and we're in this group text. And I'm like sending her freaking Bob Barker, like, come on down. Like, I was just go again, go for another round, like, why not? Yeah, I was just like, run on down there and freaking get another induction pendant or whatever they do for you down there, So, I was like, just, do your thing. Just be proud of who you are and what you are, not what name was necessarily attached to you. And as I'm saying that, I'm like, really, like, I'm hearing myself talk and everything. And like, aside from my wife trying to take a swipe at me over there to shut me up, yeah, there's a special place in heaven for that woman. That's all I got to say. But yeah, I mean, it was cool to see with the, with kids and everything. Like, it's just so different. But I'm getting off on a tangent. So tell me more about you, like, specifically. You have carved out kind of a space in the car business, right? And you have become an entity within an entity.
Correct.
Right? So people buy Chris. They don't buy necessarily what dealership that you might be at that particular time, but they buy Chris.
Yeah, and it's a totally unique approach. Like you said, it's kind of a business within a business model. So because of what I've been fortunate enough to learn over the years and people that I've worked with and had some guidance from, I've learned how to do everything in the business. They call it cradle to grave. So we take it from hello to sign here, like I said earlier. So it's if you know how to go through each one of those processes, and if you're knowledgeable about each one of those processes, you could very, very well make your own recipe and do the same thing. Finding a place that'll allow you to do it is not always the easiest, because they have their processes already set up. They've already got the staff there. All they want you to do is show up and sell cars. But when you've taken the time, built a little reputation, people start to see, oh, he can do this. But it back to the original question here, the point. So it's very much a business within a business. I don't take anybody's internet leads, phone ups, lot traffic, any walk-ins, unless they specifically ask for me. I'll jump to it and help them out. But it's branding yourself. It's creating your own marketing. It's getting the word out. It's building the reputation and word of mouth, and it's providing that quality service that, and as well as I do, referrals is a huge chunk of your potential earnings or your potential business down the line. And that's what encourages you to grow, is providing that service. They tell 5 people, they come back, they tell 5 more people. Next thing you know, you can't keep up with the phone calls, But it's definitely the model of itself. Yeah, I just exist. I just show up in a dealership and I can say, let me go to work.
It's like, I know, like when Angie used to be in the salon, right? So a lot of people don't know she was a master stylist. She did really well. But you would have your clientele, and they would hire you at the salon based on like, what can you bring to the table?
Us?
Yeah. And then like it was either booth rent or like they had some kind of a other concoction that they would come up with. And she was just like, I don't even really need the salon or whatever. I just started going to people's houses.
Yeah.
And we built her a little salon in the basement, and like, I mean, it was a little ghetto, but whatever. I mean, it worked. People still came to see her, and like they would come from all over the place to be able to get their hair did, by Angie, So still into these days, like she'll be sitting at the kitchen table with her friends putting in, hair tracks or whatever the extension things. She would be putting that into people's hair. And like, apparently me and you were in the wrong business. Okay. Let's talk about some hair extensions, right? It's like $2,000
for some high quality
needle
stuff.
in some hair. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, you're getting the like true horse hair. Yeah.
And being on the finance side of the dealership world, you see income from all walks of life, right? So you see it from fixed income, Social Security, but more so you see these people that have their little side hustles. And, I get these women that come in and say, yeah, I do hair or I barber, but it's all through Cash App. Can you use it? Well, some banks will, some banks won't. Let me see the statements and we'll try to talk to those banks. So they'll send me the statements, and you wouldn't believe the money that they're getting just for doing hair. And, it's something that is definitely an acquired skill. You can't and not anybody can do it. But once you've got that skill, I mean, you can make crazy money doing that. The deposits that I've seen in Cash App and Venmo and just wild stuff.
I mean, like I know that like my barber's like one of my best friends.
There's confidentiality. There's client barber confidentiality.
Exactly, right? The things that are spoken of in the barbershop stay in the barbershop, right? Me and you both, we came in, we had peach fuzz, and now we got some thick beards going on over here. You a little bit more so than me.
Barber today.
Yeah?
A little jacked up here. I got to fix that.
That's all right. Yeah, so you just keep it clean, but I love going into the barbershop because at the barbershop, it's like you were just saying, like it's like I won't call it like a getaway place, but like
that's a home away from home.
It is.
A place of solitude.
Exactly. And I mean, it's just, I don't know. I love that. And like, it was hard to find a good barber. They like somebody that would like, I don't know. I like to be like lined up and like everything's super crispy and
you like it the way you like it.
Yeah.
So here's an example. I go to a barber, right? And I was referred to her through a network of friends and finally, like you said, found the right one.
Yeah.
My sister is a very talented barber.
Okay.
She's a manager of a salon.
Mm-hmm.
I get asked all the time, why don't you go see your sister? Well, it's not convenient to get to her, one. Okay, so that's the first main reason. The biggest second reason is that she cuts my hair the way she wants to cut my hair.
I'm thinking of the arguments that used to go on between me and my wife because
I've been smacked in the barber chair with my sister. Just shut up.
I'm like, this isn't part of the experience.
You're
come
totally
on,
ruining this.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think like being like swatted around or whatever is going to be what I'm not going to give you a good review. Like
you're going to get a terrible review.
So
and no tip.
Right. No, I mean, and I know at first, like, I know my wife took it like really, really personally that like I was going to go to another person to have them take care of my masterpiece, and I'm telling you, man, like she was like straight up like angry at me. And I was like, listen, all you do is yell at me. Like when I'm like, you're like shaving off the side of my freaking hair, and then like it's all cattywampus, and then like you're gonna be like, you should be thankful for that. No, I'm gonna have to shave my head. I'm gonna look like I like can make forks fly across the freaking room. And I was like, I don't want thank you, but no thank you. I love you, but like that's the whole reason like people don't understand like why Angie isn't involved in my business. I've been down that road. Okay. And, you know, I'll say in this, you know, my now ex-wife stuff, you know, and the saying, what is it, like one person's trash is another person's treasure or something like that. So that kind of applies in this scenario. But you know, like we used to argue and we would take it home, and I don't want any part of that. And Angie takes care of things at home. And I know that, like, you recently become engaged.
Yep.
So congratulations with that. So, you know, tell me how that works with her as well.
She wants to be involved. I love the effort that she wants to give towards it, and I love that she wants to be a part of something bigger. And I told her, I said, here, you know, when you live with me, because she lives 5 hours away, it's a long distance thing, and we've made it work. She comes down almost every Friday to see me, and she's a great woman. She takes good care of me and the kids and house and home, you know, and obviously I pitch in on Sundays and days that I'm there. But I actually did a big appreciation post for her on Facebook not terribly long ago. I came home from work. It was a Saturday. I was exhausted. I had been up early, you know, worked all day, busy day, sold like 4 cars. So I come home and I'm just beat, you know, and I see her scurrying around the house, and she's cleaned everything. She's, you know, got the dogs taken care of. The kids are good. Groceries are done. It's like, and she's cooking dinner now. And I felt I don't want to say useless, but I was just kind of walking around and everything's done. And I was like, what can I do to help? She's like, no, babe, you've had a long day. Just relax. And then I go sit on the couch. I come up to go grab a drink, and I see her at the kitchen table. She's sorting through my invoices because she knows I'm not past due, but I haven't billed my invoices in a while. And she's like, yeah, I knew these needed attention, so I'm just getting them organized for you so you can hammer through them. And I caught that moment of her, and I took a picture. She had no idea until I posted it, tagged her. But I took this picture, and she's just kind of at the table like this, and she's holding one up, and she's kind of reading through the stack. And for me, you know, I haven't gotten into real business with her, but she keeps me organized. And we've actually had discussions about starting something together, building something together, growing it together.
Well, whether or not you're like officially in business, like you are in partnership.
Correct.
You know, and that was the turning point for me. I mean, people always ask, you know, like, who is, you know, my mentor, or like, you know, who's the person that like I look up to or whatever. It's her, like Angie, 100%. She is somebody that, like you were just saying, like she'll take care of all these different things. And like, I am like mentally wiped out because between trying to wear all the different various hats that, you know, I wear throughout the day, I mean, like mentally, like I'm shutting down, you know, and, you know, she really, really picks up after that. And she, you know, that's what a partnership though is supposed to be about, where it's a teeter-totter to bring you to even. You know, where one person is falling down a little bit, the other one's bringing you back up.
And it's never 50-50. It could be 80-20 on your worst days. It could be 95-5.
If you're in marriage trying to be able to play for score, you're in the wrong marriage.
You'll never make it.
You never make it in anything like that. I mean, there are many times that, you know, I mean, like we've had to learn our boundaries within different various things, you know, like, Angie comes from a very poor background, right? So, you know, when she originally, like when we started doing really well and she started getting access to different things, I had kind of said, I was just like, hey, don't forget, like we were poor at one point in time. And, you know, and I don't know, like I've had it, lost it, built it back, you know, so I've been through maybe a different experience as far as that goes. But
well, that maybe humbled you as to appreciate where you come from and kind of work. And I'm sure she's had those moments of time where it's like, I'm kind of going backwards here. I need to pull it back forward.
She definitely has. And I mean, you know, like I said, it's you notice that most successful people in business, they have somebody in their corner helping them,
keeping them grounded.
And right, you know, they're like with the frying pan, right? You know, like keeping them in check. I'm a special case. I know that I am a difficult person. hard-headed, and I know that, like, again, I always say there's a special place in heaven for her, but she keeps me in line like nobody else can, and I'm thankful for that, and I don't know what I would do without her. But I'm just thankful for that. But I'm glad you have found that, because I think that was something that we both were deserving of.
It's one of those things you don't think really exists until you find it.
Right. And I mean, they're with legends.
In this case, she found me.
Right. I mean, they're with legends. You know what I mean? So, like, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We're as good as they can do.
Sorry. It's all downhill, really. If you were going to go backwards at this point, it's like going and getting, like, the steak at, like, the most fanciest restaurants, and, like, they cut into it, and it's, like, perfect. And then, like, you go and get, like, a steak from, like, Outback.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say Outbacks are bad. They are good, but yeah. So anyway, as far as, tell me a little bit about, so you have the side business.
So I decided to take advantage of an opportunity. My dad, he's been an optician for over 40 years. And as he's gotten older towards the retirement age, he's retired now, but as he was getting older towards that age, he started finding out these little opportunities, and he was in a position where his company merged with another company. The owner retired. That company merged with another company. Owner retired. And each time, excuse me, these companies were like, well, we don't want to go with that company, but we love your service. So my dad's like, well, you have to wait for the no compete and all that. I can't touch you guys. But when I can, if you want me to, I will. So he started servicing those companies independently. And then he got to a certain point where now he's retired. He did it for a couple years into the retirement. And now he's like, yeah, I just want to golf and travel, and I need somebody to take this over.
God love the man.
He asked me, he goes, do you want this? If not, I'm going to sell it to somebody else. And I said, well, let's see what you got here. And he kind of showed me what his model is and who he works with and the companies that he services, the orders, the income, all that stuff. And I said, you know what? I'd like to take a swing at it.
And what is the service? I'm sorry.
It's a prescription safety glass company.
Okay.
So industry workers, the factory workers, the steel workers, it's prescription safety eyewear. So Safeguard Vision Services is the LLC that I started. And all I'm doing is I'm learning about the business through him, and it's really a turnkey model. If you know the basics of optometry, which once upon a time you needed a college degree for, now you can read a book and it's done. But it's too simple of a service not to try to do something with it. And go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's what you're saying.
It's low overhead. I work every other Tuesday, a couple days throughout the week here and there, just doing invoices, billing. But it's simple. It wasn't very difficult to figure out that you've got a lab that cuts your lenses down to the prescription, and then they can apply the coatings and the fog free and all that other stuff. You're taking a big need, because I get people that order multiple pairs of glasses a year, and then you get a company with 2,000 employees. It kind of funnels itself, right? So,
cool.
Prescription safety eyewear. You got a lab that does the lenses. You order the frames wholesale. The lab assembles everything into the frame for you, and
it's a niche market too.
It is.
So you're not like servicing like all eyewear. I mean, I guess you could.
I could,
but you're focusing on that niche market, which is what if you're going to do something, be real good at it. So I'm reminded of, you had said on there, like you can just take this test or whatever, and like you don't need the college degree. So
right.
My daughter is a junior, okay, and next year, is her last year in high school. So we have started looking at colleges, and oh my gosh. So we are so different in this aspect, me and you specifically, right? So like I have some college under my belt, and I actually have a degree, right? But I feel like that is very different today than it was maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Today than it did all those years ago.
100%. So like I had this conversation, and I was trying to like tread lightly with my daughter, because like she's very into school, she's very into studies, and she's a really good student. You know, like I said, National Honor Society. She's like great AP courses and everything. In fact, she's probably going to be a year or two into college by the time that she gets done with high school. So I'm trying to explain to her, I was just like, hey, you know, the people that I have met in business, just a degree isn't what it maybe used to be. Again,
it doesn't mean the same, I don't think.
And you know, I said I'm going to even go even a little further than that. That there's a lot of people, and I would say actually a vast majority of people that have been very successful in business. You know, college teaches you to be an employee. Okay, real life teaches you how to run a business.
Yeah, that experience is irreplaceable.
And so I had said to her, I was like, you know, a college degree is not, it might get you the job, but it's not going to keep the job. It's not going to make you good at your job. And, you know, I said, as far as like, it's a piece of paper. What it did is it showed that you had a set of tasks and you showed up for those and you performed those set of tasks and you completed everything in a timely basis. And that you were shown that, again, that you could show up, that you could be able to complete something and, you know, and do it in a productive sort of way. And she got really upset with me. Well, we're down in like the Fort Lauderdale area, like we were visiting down there. I had a client that I had to go see, and we took her down there, and she went to the University of Miami. So I'm thinking, like, I don't know why in my mind I'm thinking like college is like $20,000 for 4 years or something like that. Oh no,
that's probably a semester, if not more.
It was even more than that. Yeah. So this was like for 4 years, it would have been like $400,000 to send her to school, and I'm sitting there like in a state of panic because I'm like, oh my gosh,
Holy
like
crap.
she's like really, really being serious here. Like she wants to go there and that kind of thing. And so like, I love Mizzou. I went through Mizzou. Like, so the thing is they have it's a program through Mizzou that they can go there. And I don't want to say it's going to be free, but I would say it's going to be very, very similar. So I was trying to sit down and have this conversation about how, you know, like your degree, maybe one you have a tiger on it, the other one you have a hurricane on there. You know, but at the end of the day, if I'm an employer,
are still going to be the same.
It's still the exact same. So, and again, I'm not saying one thing or the other of, you know, one's better or the other. And so I'm sure there's, you know, different things here and there. But I was like, the other thing you got to look at is, you know, Mizzou is an SEC school, and you know you're D1, you know, and so, you know, I know she's like big into football and cheerleading and all that. I was like, you know, Mizzou, I mean, you know, they're freaking killing life, you know. So like they had a great team this past year. I didn't even watch in the Cotton Bowl or whatever that they were in, I think is the other day, but I didn't even see the game, to be totally honest with you. But it was just very eye opening to see that, you know, I tried to explain to her, I was just like, you know, college is funded by, in many cases, student loans, which are then backed by government, right? Mm-hmm. So why would the government not want you to go get a 4-year degree and take out a loan through them and then freaking be in debt for the rest of your freaking life, you know?
And I'm talking about credit, I always tell people when they ask about student loans, because some people ask me, what can I expect before I go file a bankruptcy? And I kind of consult them on what to expect going forward from that point. And they talk about student loans. I'll pull up their credit report and I'll show them. They could have $30,000 in student loans, and they're like, "Yeah, I can't wait to get rid of those." And I'm like, "You plan on dying soon? Because that's about the only way, you know."
Well, apparently not. You're like, apparently all that's getting dismissed or whatever for people.
They think it is, but it always comes back. It always comes back.
You know, nothing's for free. You know, it was like the whole thing with like when people took money during COVID and everything else. I mean, you're paying the price for all that right now.
Yeah.
Nothing in life is ever going to be for free. And the sooner that people realize that, the better off you're going to be. But,
absolutely,
you know, like in regards to school, you know, this is where, you know, you got to step in as the parent and just be like, hey, look, you know, like, I mean, I do have like a student fund for her set up,
Sure.
you know, but again, you know, maybe I'm missing a couple zeros in that student fund or whatever, but I wasn't thinking it was going to be like 400 G's. I was like, maybe you could go start here and then maybe like a grad school or something like that.
Sure.
We can, you know, we can talk about maybe moving you over to doing that, but I don't know. I think she'll find her way, and she's got a bunch of friends that are going to Mizzou, so we'll see if that ends up happening. But you know, pray for me in the interim of that. But anyway, man, as far as you know, our time, we're running a little bit short on time. I really thank you for being here. You know, man, like you've been such a great friend to me over the years. I'm super proud of you that you're just freaking killing life and doing your thing. You know, keep doing what you're doing. Keep killing life. Keep winning. And yeah, man, I really, again, I appreciate you being on here.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah. And Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you. Yeah, we're gonna be gone. So
yeah. Think of me when you're on the beach.
I will. Yeah, I will. I'll be like the guy with like
just don't send me the picture of the Speedos again.
Right.
That was too
much. I'll give you feet pics instead. But.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'll take care. Thank you again.